welcome to the Underwater Photography Show. As always, I'm Matthew Sullivan.
And I'm Alex Mustard.
And today I get to put Alex on the hot seat. UPY is now open for entries. Whenever you guys are seeing this, it's open till January 4th. So today I am taking the opportunity to do my best to ask Alex all the potential questions that people could have about this competition, and see if we can get any insights as to how we can be more successful with our images in UPY.
Yeah, and I'd say that we've always run UPY as if we were entrants ourselves. It's always been very much a contest run by members of the community for the community. We've always, we try with UPY to do everything the best way we can. And part of that is always being really honest and open. If you've entered UPY, that we judge UPY immediately after the closing date. There's never an extension on the closing date because we want to try and get a few more entries. We have a closing date, that's it, it's closed, and we literally arrange to meet as judges. In fact, Tobias was booking his flight this week. He's coming, we're judging those days, so we'll start judging, I think, on the 6th, because it takes a bit of time to get all the pictures off the server and then just do a few checks. In case someone's picture gets corrupted, it gives us that 24 hours to say, hey, your picture got corrupted on upload. Can you send us the correct version? And then we judge the next day. We're that straight into it. So with that in mind, and we try during the process to share images. There's no, secrets, and we have that philosophy that every single judge named in the contest sees every single entry. And that allows us also to give the feedback on all the entries. Is something that's pretty unique to UPY. Is you get a graph of how far each of your images progress through the contest. It's not always, directly related to how good a shot they were, because some years, if we get a huge number of shots of a particular subject, you might have a brilliant shot of that subject go out early, and that's not because it's a bad shot in any way. It's simply because we had to cull down the number of good shots of that subject. But we know that people really value that feedback.
So
yeah, happy to answer.
One thing I'll compliment you guys right off the bat with is a few things. One, the speed with which you guys judge and let people know their own personal results. Everybody appreciates that. Two is the graph, being able to see how far your image has progressed. It's very useful feedback. And like you said, it's not necessarily indicative of how good the actual image is, but it gives you an idea of what the judges are potentially looking for, or what other images might be in that you are competing against. And then now I've blanked on the third one, but I'm sure I'll come back to it.
How good looking the judges are. Oh no, sorry.
That too. That goes without saying.
Okay, yes.
But when you're awarded, getting that little bit of feedback, because each judge leaves like a blurb on the awarded images, that's really useful. It's useful in that you understand why your image was chosen, but it's also like a little bit of a boost. Like, yeah, I did something right and did something cool and got a nice picture that clearly all three of you enjoyed. So I have a couple questions. The first one I'm going to ask, because I know I'll forget it if I don't, is something you just touched on with regards to potentially having a picture entered that is up against other pictures of that same subject. But my question is, if an individual photographer puts in two similar images, do they compete against each other? Because I get this question all the time, but I'm not a judge for this competition, so I can't speak for you guys.
So what I would say is that rarity is a big part of how you stand out in any contest. If you have 100 shots of the same thing, and they're all, so something amazing happens and 100 shots get entered of it. When you're judging a category that, say, has 1,000 entries in it, and 100 of them are of the same thing, 1 in 10 pictures is the same, you quite quickly lose appeal of those images.
Yep.
So I would say that any wise photographer, if they do get to see something really amazing, they wouldn't enter too much of it, because you'll only, we're not going to award 1 to 10 in a category. Say it's someone gets an amazing, there's a big event and you've got whale sharks and humpback whales feeding together on a bait ball, and it's really awesome. But a bunch of photographers get it that year. And then all those photographers all say, that would be great for UPY. I'll put my 5 best shots in. And you've got, 10 photographers all putting 5 best shots in. You've got 50 pictures of the same thing in the category. Now, we might go, wow, this is amazing. We've never seen the likes of that. That's exactly what we're looking for in a UPY winner. But we're only going to pick one of those 50.
Yeah.
And actually, if suddenly this, we get down to, say, the last 20 in the category, and 10 of them are all of that, we might suddenly go, God, everyone's got this. It's not special. So yes, I think there is an element you want to be careful about entering similar shots. I also think if you don't know what your best shots are, I think that can frustrate judges. We're not too harsh on that because we don't know, because they're anonymous. We don't know if it's 10 different photographers all giving us one shot or one photographer giving us 10 shots of the same thing. So we're generally a bit forgiving about that. But yeah, generally it makes a lot of sense to enter one great shot of something, or one or two, give yourself a couple of chances in there. But spamming the contest with the same pictures is never a good plan. I would also say, as a general comment, UPY has a moving age wall of how new the pictures have to be. But say you go out and there's a one-off amazing event one year where something amazing happens in the ocean, and a lot of photographers were there, a lot of photographers get pictures of it. And you enter those pictures the first year, you're not successful. Actually waiting a couple of years and re-entering one or two of those shots when actually everyone else has moved on to something else is not a bad strategy. So if you do have something special that wasn't awarded a couple of years ago, it can be quite good to bring it out again when everyone else has forgotten about that thing. Whether it's like, one thing I've shot a lot is the silver sides in Cayman, and you don't get them every year. You don't get good photos every year. And then the year you get good photos, everyone floods the contest with them. And then the next year there's none. And, the picture that, was maybe would have been second or third best one year might become a winner. So there can be a bit of strategy to entering that can help.
With regards to, so one thing I would like to comment on is that I've found useful in, regardless of competition, but including UPY, is if you're struggling to choose images for it, is send them to people whose opinions you trust, because they aren't necessarily going to be emotionally invested in your pictures the way you are. So they might have different ideas of what is objectively good versus what matters to you. So I think that's kind of an aside, but it's a useful bit of advice for choosing competition images. Because, and it happens to me too. I get emotionally attached to one picture. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good competition image or even a good image. So having somebody else or a couple other people look at your pictures before entry is always a good idea.
I completely agree with that. And one thing I often say is, you and your friend can maybe choose, if you're going to enter 10 pictures each, you can choose 5 of yours and your friend gets to choose 5 from your collection and vice versa. And whoever has more success gets one more the next year. So if your friends ones get awarded, they get 6 the next year. You only get 4 to choose from your own work. But I think it's a really good process, particularly with the right people who understand contests who have success. Because, there is no doubt in my mind that, there are potential winners sitting on people's hard drives that they don't think to enter. Well, and then the picture that they want to enter because they think, oh, wow, I've waited all my life to get this shot because I'd seen someone else take it years ago. They are super excited about that shot. And we're like, yeah, we saw this years ago,
So anecdotally, there's a picture of mine that's of a blue crab at night with a light in the background. Mm-hmm. And I showed it in my recent talk. And the first time you saw it, you said you really enjoyed that picture. And at the talk, it got good feedback and a good reaction. When I first saw that picture, I almost deleted it off the camera because I didn't really care about it. Thankfully, I didn't. But then I started, a few people saw it. And they're like, oh, that's a really cool image. And, this goes back to the next question I'm going to ask. But I had already posted it and things like that, and a bunch of people had seen it, so I didn't bother entering it anywhere. But that goes to show that just because whether you like it or dislike it, it might have merit. So send it to other people, let other people show it, because they might see something you didn't. But that goes into my next question, which is, because I get another question I get asked a lot, and I'm not sure why I get asked this, is if posting images that you're going to enter in competitions on social media before the competition judging is done is detrimental to that image's chances of winning.
So I would say generally in most contests out there, no. Because I have to say, if I look at a lot of competition results, I see time and again a whole bunch of pictures I've seen before.
Yeah.
And that's in other competitions that get millions of views, let alone someone's social media that gets a few thousand views.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's of any big consequence in a lot of competitions. However, in UPY, I would say be a little bit more careful. UPY over the last 10 plus years has developed a reputation of being the place where you see pictures first. You look through all, I mean, it's hard retrospectively to do this, but if you actually think where you saw a lot of the pictures first, they get awarded in UPY first. We make a conscious effort as judges, because we're all in one room. If one judge says, I've seen that one before, it goes down in our estimation. We want to award fresh images, and UPY down history has repeatedly rewarded and awarded pictures that haven't been seen elsewhere. And obviously a lot of those pictures then go on and win. So when you kind of look back at a year, you go, oh, these UPY pictures, I've seen them in other places. But when they came out, you hadn't. And I think that is a really important part of UPY. So if a picture has been overexposed, we're unlikely to go for it. Now, we don't study every contest that's out there. But if there's a feeling in our minds we've seen the picture about, it's likely to do less well. Now, we're not out there going through people's Instagram going, oh, they've posted on Instagram, we're going to count that against them. Would never count against you that you've seen it, that it's been on Instagram. However, we might see a picture and go, I don't know where I've seen that, but I've seen it around. Therefore, maybe it was in a contest, and then we might start being less impressed by it than if we feel it's been saved up for UPY. So I know a lot of people out there kind of say, oh, the contest season starts now, and you save your pictures up till now, and now you start entering them in WPY, which is also open at the moment, UPY, and then the other contests following on from that. And I have to say that we, definitely at UPY, we're very lucky that lots of photographers only do our contests and don't do others. So we get a lot of people coming out who don't do all the other contests. But if you look historically back through, there's almost all our UPY winners were never seen anywhere else before they were revealed in UPY. So so that is important to us. So just be aware of that. And I would also say that if you get a big win in UPY, I would probably if you have put the picture online, you might want to take that post down, because actually I think there's nothing cooler than revealing a picture as a winner in UPY that people haven't seen before. Yeah. Kind of, if people have seen your shot before and it's awarded a winner, it's like, well done you. Yeah, we love that shot. If you bring a shot out of the woodwork that no one's ever seen before and go, hey, I'm a UPY winner with this shot you've never seen, people are like, oh my God, how many more unseen shots have you got that are amazing? So I think you impress people more when you win with a shot that's never been publicly shown before. But it's not, certainly posting online would not make or break in any contest. I think most contests, they really don't care. I know specifically from judging many other contests that they often take the view that they're very happy to award pictures that have been awarded in other competitions because of the fact that they feel that their audience is different from the other contests. I mean, I judged the environmental photographer. I was the president of the jury there this year. They took the attitude that their pictures were going to be, enjoyed by the public who wouldn't normally have seen them in the other contests. And the same with Siena as well, where I was judging this year. Both those contests were kind of like, we don't mind if pictures have been seen before because our audience hasn't seen them.
That's fair.
Yeah. But UPY, we're different. Yeah.
So I guess the big hard-hitting question, which could be a long answer, is when entering UPY, what sort of images are you guys looking for? What catches your eye? What sort of things should people enter that will be successful or can be successful?
So I would say, first thing I should say actually is that one big change for UPY this year is that we've introduced a coral reefs category. And one of the reasons for that is I have felt down the years that coral reefs are one of the main places that underwater photos are taken. But in our classic categories of wide angle and macro, I think it's quite difficult to do well with coral reef images. They do get awarded, but far less than they're taken. And I also think that coral reefs are really one of the global environments that are absolutely on the forefront of the climate crisis. and being able to showcase them as an important environment. I think people go, oh, if you've been to the poles, that's really worthy nature photography. You're documenting climate change. Whereas if you go and shoot coral reefs, it's like, oh, isn't that pretty? There's no problems there. Everything's wonderful. So we wanted to create a category that celebrated the amazing biodiversity, abundance, color, spectacle of life on coral reefs, but also had room for telling the conservation stories there. So we brought that new category in, and I think that will appeal to a lot of photographers, because I think a classic coral reef wide angle shot maybe isn't as exciting as some other wide angle subject matter, so it can be quite hard to do well with in wide angle. And the same a little bit with macro, in that it's often kind of black water or more crittery macro that tends to do well over standard coral reef macro. So we felt a catch-all coral reef category gave photographers a better turn, and we dropped one of our British categories to make room for it, because we don't want to award more pictures. So we've dropped the British category, and that also makes the competition a little bit more internationally biased, which we felt that we had too many British categories, but they were important to us from where the UPY came from. So as a background, in terms of what should win, which is to answer your question, we as judges go into the judging room with very open minds. We really don't think too much about what we're looking for. However, judging actually starts by us going to the pub, and it sounds really silly, but Peter, Tobias and I, we haven't seen each other together for a year when we come together for judging. And the judging is a very honest, very, not aggressive is the wrong word, but you're making decisions that you really believe in, and you're fighting for things, and there's no room for politeness. So the pub session is great, because we go to the pub, we talk about photography, we get to know each other again, so that when we go to the judging room, we can be like, shut up, you're completely wrong, this is rubbish because of these reasons, rather than going, excuse me, I think that I've got a slightly different opinion, so it just allows us to cut through it. We go in there with very open minds, but we're looking to be impressed, and we're judging very much with our UPY hats on. We want the most amazing collection of images for UPY. And I don't care who took them. I don't care. We judge it blind. I've awarded plenty of photographers who, have styles of photography that I personally don't like. But with my UPY hat on, I'm like, that is amazing. Something new, something fresh, something original, something beautiful for UPY. We'll have that. And we want diversity. So, we can't award, 30 pictures of whales. So even though we had a lot of category winners that were whales last year, there weren't many other whales in the collection, so we're looking for a diverse collection of underwater photos. We're looking for innovation, things that are fresh to the contest, whether that's fresh subject matter, fresh techniques, fresh compositional ideas, and that's something we're definitely after. I would also say that because we have the same judging panel year on year, we know what we awarded previously.
Yeah.
Of course, great pictures that are in similar styles might get awarded again, but we are very aware of what's been awarded in the past, and we're looking for freshness. So, we are looking for pictures. If you've got a slightly better version of one of last year's winning pictures, if you'd entered it last year, it would have won. But this year, we're going to be like, yeah, it's like last year's shot. So, look to enter things that are a little bit fresh, a little bit interesting. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we are looking for someone who's, this is something that hasn't been seen in underwater photography before. And if you look back, go to underwaterphotographyoftheyear.com on the website, look back through all the old yearbooks, which is the easiest way to look at the winners. I think you'll see that unites the pictures, that they are fresh, certainly at the time they're taken. Obviously, they influence a lot of people, so many of them get emulated. Yeah. Often we'll award the first appearance of a new technique, and then within 6 months, everyone's doing that same technique. Like when Davide Lopresti won with the panning snooted shot of the seahorse. Yeah. At the time, that was the only shot of that technique that had ever been seen. No one had never been awarded any of the contest. He put it in UPY, it became our overall winner. And that's now a common technique that, I teach on workshops, other people teach, lots of people do. You can still win contests with that. I mean, we had, one was awarded in GDT the weekend. But in UPY, we're like, you've got to move the game on from what Davide did, or it's like we've seen it before.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're looking. We know what we've had before. We know what's been out there before, and we're looking for something really, really special. I mean, it's UPY, for goodness. We certainly feel it's the strongest collection of underwater photos you'll see each year. And I know lots of our entrants and most of the community feel the same. And so we feel that obligation to make sure it is that when we're judging. And I find it very easy. People say, what happens if someone enters a picture taken on one of your workshops? Well, first of all, I have a lot of workshops during the year. I don't remember all the pictures that everyone's taken. But once I'm in the judging room, it's very much UPY hat on. It's like, yeah, I love this picture, but it's not right for UPY, or so it's.
So that I want to comment on is there's that just because an image isn't awarded doesn't mean it's not a good image. But like you said, you guys are looking at it through a very specific lens, so it might not fit UPY specifically. For example, there's images that have not placed or been awarded in UPY that are awarded in Wildlife Photographer of the Year because they're more of that genre of image. So just because something isn't awarded for UPY doesn't necessarily mean it's not a good picture and that you should be bummed out about it. It just means that it doesn't fit what UPY is looking for.
Yeah.
Which I think is also important, that different images are a better fit in different, like not every good picture is going to be good for every competition. Like there's different things that each one is looking for.
I would correct part of that though, is that we have never awarded a picture that's been previously awarded in the wildlife photography.
No, yeah.
But the wildlife photographer has several times awarded pictures that have previously been awarded in the UPY.
Yes.
I take you. I'm making a point scoring point. I was just I take your bigger picture, that point that the different contests do have different styles, and the wildlife photographer is wildlife photography.
Yeah.
Underwater photographer of the year is, we are open to any type of underwater photo. It might be a pool shot. It might be a free diver shot in the ocean. It might be a wildlife shot. It might be a super creative using all sorts of artificial backgrounds and things. We're okay with all of that. It's underwater. It's all underwater photography. I personally may not like some of those things, but with my UPY hat on, I want the best pictures for UPY, irrespective of my own personal likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
But I will use my, 40 years in underwater photography and looking at pictures to influence what we have and make sure it really is something fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think as of this minute, I've exhausted most of my questions, and hopefully we've covered a lot of the stuff that people are actually curious about with regards to UPY, and we can now direct people to this video if they have questions about the competition. But unless you have anything to add, I think that's a good place to wrap up. And I, for one, are very much looking forward to seeing whatever is awarded in January or February, I guess.
And I have to say, it's like, it comes quite soon after Christmas, and it is like a second Christmas where you go there and you unwrap these categories, and, honestly, it's the best underwater photographers putting their best work in, and you open these categories up and it's, 800, 1,000 pictures, and they're all really good. The starting point is really good. And then it's just a case of, it's why we judge it in rounds and why we give the feedback, because it's impossible to go from 1,000 pictures to a winner. You have to go, okay, we're just going to take the worst 10% out. Okay, the next worst 10% out, or 20% or whatever. And you slowly whittle it down. And it's just, it's amazing. I said the other thing that's really important about the judging is we do it staying together for 3 days. And it's amazing how the fact that, the winning images, they've gone across the screen 10, 15 times already before we make any decisions. So we know the images really well by the end. Often better than the photographers. And, people will ask me about their images, and I may not have seen it for 2-3 months, but I can go, yeah, that little bit in the corner I didn't like so much. And, we know the winners inside out by the end of it. We've really looked at them properly.
Well, it goes to show that if you are awarded in this competition, regardless of what place you have in it, it's a pretty good achievement. And if you're overall winner, category winner, that that speaks for itself. But Um,
And
I
hopefully people will come to London for the awards ceremony, which is I think it's a party really. Oh, let's not. Everyone last year definitely drank rather too much. So
well, I think that's probably a good place to wrap this one up. I'm sure you'll have, a lot of images that are really fun to look through for UPY. And I look forward to seeing the winners when they are announced in February.